Pulp MX Network production.
Bringing you a cheeky Brit and an American YouTube racing sensation weekly. It's the LVK More Than Moto podcast with your hosts, Phillips and Kellen Brauer.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Leatt LVK More Than Moto podcast. I am Kellen Brauer, joined by Phillips. We are into the second half of Monster Energy Supercross. Birmingham kicked off this weekend, the official second half of the championship. Now, there's just 7 rounds left to go. And, of course, myself and Big Lou were both on hand this weekend in Alabama to catch the action. So we're going to get into some fun topics today. But first, my good buddy Phillips has had a busy week. He's been flying back and forth across the country. And we're doing the show a little bit later in the week because of that. So, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm okay. A lot of flying, not over yet. Another long flight to Seattle tomorrow, but no rest for the wicked.
Do you feel that? This is probably your most strenuous travel week now. Then, aside from maybe the Anaheims, I guess. But do you feel that living in Florida has made generally the season easier? Like, because everything's kind of closer?
So 100%.
Yeah.
Like 1,000,000%, I think. And even down to the fact of like when it is an East Coast race, I'm going to the race and you guys are talking about how tired you are and I'm fine. Like, as dumb as it is, that really makes a difference. I think that will especially prove to be advantageous come outdoors because those are even earlier starts. Some of the East Coast rounds of outdoors, you wake up at 3 a.m. West Coast time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, and for you, you moved at a good time because now none of the West Coast races go really long. Like,
no.
Seattle's going to be done at 8. So, yeah, your window. I mean, it's seriously, everything is working out that like the whole sport at some level is going to be in Florida in the next, 20 years. Like, yeah. California is just not it anymore. I mean, this is a whole different topic, but it's just not here anymore. So,
no, it's now that we're in the East Coast swing, it's proving to be advantageous. I could be anywhere, though. Who knows where I'll be in 6 months' time?
Indeed. I did not go to Birmingham for the inaugural one. So
I was going to say, that just really, my mind was just like, what? I swear you were there.
Yeah, no, for the inaugural one. So this is my first experience. But I heard from you guys that this race last year was, the rain didn't help. The crowd was lighter. It didn't have a very positive impact. Obviously, Steve just skipped this race because he didn't like it. Was it better year 2? Like, because I only know this year for me. Do you think it was better this year?
Well, it was more of a pleasant, fitting round of Supercross just because of the weather, track conditions. Of course, this is the first time that we've had a real Supercross track in Birmingham. So those factors alone made it better. I was still surprised by how small the crowd was, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. My geography isn't great, so I don't know if that venue should sell out. I know that there's talk of the surrounding markets that you hope to pull from, Atlanta being the major one. But yeah, the crowd was a letdown. I don't know. It would be interesting to compare that crowd to the Atlanta Speedway. Of course, you can't compare it to the Georgia Dome, but the Speedway, I'd be curious to know how down it is compared to that.
Yeah, it's really an interesting case study because so they say that the idea behind this round being where it is now is obviously they can't go to the Georgia Dome. They didn't like the Speedway race, so they need that southern market. But also they took Houston off the schedule, which to them used to grab the New Orleans market or the Louisiana market. And so they're hoping that a Alabama race would not only pull from Georgia and Atlanta, but also pull from Louisiana and get that market, and I guess maybe some of Texas as well. But I don't know if it's working yet. I mean, this is probably a topic we should get into deeper. It's definitely not the same vibe that Atlanta used to be. I talked to some fans at the race and stuff, and they, in their opinion, wished it still was in Atlanta. Obviously, it's going to be very expensive for them to go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium there. And I think logistically it wasn't really working for them to do that anyway. So I don't know that there is a perfect solution, but you're right. To me, this one felt emptier than I expected. It was weird that the entire lower bowl was like really full and no one was in the upper deck, even though they sold seats up there. But yeah, it seems sparse.
Yeah. But again, College Stadium, not the most spectacular round. I guess it's okay to have a couple of those events with a lesser crowd, lesser infrastructure, less wow factor, if you will. I don't think that's a bad thing, is it?
I mean, it's. I think in Feld's ideal situation, they go to 17 stadiums and sell them all out, though. And I think
Well, of
for
course.
well, I just think for the sports perspective as well. This one wasn't like live on NBC or anything fantastic like that, but in the event that you do have a race like that ends up live on NBC and someone tunes in for the first time and sees a half-empty stadium, I think that they're going to be kind of like, why, do people really care about this sport? Is it that big of a deal? So the aesthetics of it, you definitely want more people than not, I would say.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe as soon as you hear that it's in Birmingham, you go, oh, well, that's why it's not full.
Yeah, but Alabama is always kind of interesting to me because they sell out the NASCAR race at Talladega somehow, and then they also sell out college football games there like bonkers. I mean, there's some huge stadiums in Alabama that have college football games, and they're full to the brim every time. So it seems like there's enough people there to get a crowd that would fill out that stadium in Birmingham, which seats, I don't know, what, 40,000, maybe 35?
47.
47. Okay. So yeah, it is a little bit bigger than I expected, but still, like, it's just, yeah, I'm with you. It seems sparse at best.
And one of the local media people said that they had been pushing advertising the event like crazy. He said that he couldn't believe just how proactive they were with promotion and trying to get people there. So maybe that makes it more disappointing.
I didn't look at this, and I should have, and we're, this should probably just be our first topic now. I'm curious as well, like what ticket prices are, because I'm assuming they're probably similar to other stadiums, but I wonder if that is a problem with an area like Birmingham, which is, we talked about on the weekend. There's a lot of rundown areas around the stadium. It's a bit more of a lower income area of the country anyway. And if you have tickets going for $70 a pop just to get in, maybe that's something where families just are like, nah. But if you could sell them for 30 a pop and it's like 120 for a family of 4 to go, maybe that makes it more appetizing.
Yeah, well, I don't know the prices. I don't know the economic situation in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know enough really to comment.
You agree there was some rundown areas.
Yeah, but there were some really nice areas. I mean,
Sure.
go to Anaheim. You don't have to go too far to find some rundown areas. Go to San Diego. Could you not say that about everywhere?
No, you're right. I understand that, but I'm just saying, I think that obviously it's just an area of the country where it's not filled with a lot of people like Anaheim is, where you could pull from all kinds of different, income classes. And then also, yeah, there's just a lot of empty buildings and old places. And I don't know, like, I'm not saying it's the worst part of the country or anything like that. I'm just saying it's definitely a little bit lower income. So
it didn't stand out to me as being that bad as it did to you, as you referenced time and time again over the weekend. To me, it was no different. Like, to me, Foxborough is a much less appealing area. Philadelphia didn't exactly scream brilliance to me. So to me, it was no different to many of the other stops on the calendar.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's get into our actual topics here today. Big shout out to Leatt, Namura, Racetech, Partzilla. I'm going to tell you guys all about them throughout the show, and we're also going to pick our giveaway winner for the Partzilla hoodie that we talked about on the last show. All right, let's get into my first topic of the day, though. 7 minutes on the clock. Big Lou, here is my question to you. We have now had back-to-back races in which the teammates of our current championship combatants, Cooper Webb and Chase Sexton, have gotten in between each other in a championship fight. Justin Cooper gets second in Indianapolis. That was obviously Chase Sexton crash-induced, but he still got second and took some points away from Chase. And now Malcolm Stewart and Aaron Plessinger helped a podium sweep behind Chase Sexton, which obviously took points away from Cooper Webb. So my question to you, and also keep in mind that Eli Tomac might come back at the end of this championship, which teammates, not by just doing it, on purpose, I'm saying just in general, are going to play the biggest role in determining this championship?
So you're basically asking AP or Justin Cooper?
Okay, Malcolm Stewart?
Okay, but you can't define him.
I'm talking about the Austria group here. Obviously, they're involved in this.
Okay. Are you ready for my answer?
Doesn't matter.
It's completely off the board of what you've just listed as potential options.
Okay.
Eli Tomac.
I said he's coming back.
Oh, did you? I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh, I must have zoned out. I was really trying to follow your question because I was getting confused. Um, so who's going to be the biggest factor? I would say from a sport perspective, a racing perspective, Justin Cooper, because he will probably start ahead of Chase a fair amount. But from a results factor, I would say AP, because I think that AP can have more. If you were to say to me who is going to be the more consistent teammate over the next 8 rounds, 7 rounds now, I would say Justin Cooper. If you were going to ask me who could potentially have one or two incredible races and therefore the opposing teammate loses out because of that, I would say AP. I think that Justin Cooper will be better than AP for the remainder of the season consistently, but I think that AP will have more standout moments, which leads me to him.
Yeah, I think I could get on board with that for sure. Definitely the Justin Cooper starts is where I think he'll play the biggest factor just because he generally could be a roadblock to Sexton trying to get through and make some passes. And say Webb gets an early lead. If Jay Coop is second, it might be a little bit more difficult for Sexton to do that. But I also am kind of curious if these guys are even going to be involved that much at all, because I even asked AP and I feel like he kind of didn't really appreciate the question, but I asked him post race, like, is it getting weird that obviously KTM wants Sexton to win this title, but you also want to win a race, so you got to be fair play with your teammate a little bit here? And he says, no, it's not getting weird. Like, we're just, racing and it is what it is. But there's no way we get to, especially if it's still this close, we get to 4 to go, that Roger and Ian and, all those guys don't say something, right? To just say like, hey, make it a little bit harder on him or something like that.
I don't think there's any conversation like that. I think there's just a conversation of be aware.
Right.
Don't do anything dumb.
But okay, so let me ask this from a standpoint of like closeness or relationship or friendship. Obviously, Jay Coop and Cooper Webb are pretty tight or, pretty close. I think AP and Chase are close, but not as close as Jay Coop and Webb. So
fair.
Do you feel like, in a sense then, from a friendship level, Jay Coop would maybe race Chase harder than AP would race Coop?
No, because I don't think that either of them really have that instinct of being a dick. I think both of those riders are two that are very happy to just let the cards fall how they may and not wanting to get involved. And because don't forget, AP is also fairly tight, maybe even tighter than he is with Chase, with Coop.
Yeah.
And then Jay Coop is just kind of a 5. He is I don't think he's going to really get himself too wrapped up in the emotions of Cooper Webb's title fight, especially not. Of course, a night like Indy is ideal, but I don't think you see anyone race harder than they potentially would otherwise, because AP is going to have to race Coop and Chase harder if he's going to get a win, and that's his priority more so than Chase winning this title.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with any of that. I think that I don't really see a world where either of these teammates or pseudo teammates in Malcolm and Barsha play that much of a factor. But I do think that this is now the time where you start thinking about that a little bit, even just from a fan perspective, of if Webb has to pass Justin Barsha, maybe it's just, oh, was there something said there? Did Barsha run him high on purpose? It's maybe just what Justin does. Like, I don't know. I feel like that narrative is going to begin soon.
Yeah, I have no time for that narrative, though. I just kind of disregard it as, like, unless there's something quite blatant like New York 2017. I just think that everyone's going to race as they would. We've seen Justin make it plenty hard on Chase. You would think that if there was any sort of awareness of this, then he wouldn't have made that pass in the last corner of Arlington, where Chase could have gone down.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I don't think it plays a factor, but you just never know. I don't think anybody thought Kyle Chisholm would try to torpedo Chad Reed in 09, and he did. So, like, at some level, it just has to be a conversation, I think, where people are going to wonder if it's going to happen or not. I don't think it will, but I wanted to bring it to light just to see if it was even worth debating. And you also mentioned Eli Tomac coming back. But what I want to know with him is, do you think that he comes back and immediately can run those guys' pace? Because I don't know. Like, I feel like in a championship fight, those guys are just simply going to be better than Eli when he comes back.
It depends when he comes back. If he comes back in Denver, then yeah, I think that he'll just be a third to fifth place guy. But if he comes back in Philly, then I think he'll be a third to fifth place guy for weeks 1, 2, 3, and then weeks 4, 5 he can maybe run with Chase and Coop. I think that it's more of a matter of it's not a matter of if, it's more a matter of when, and the when will be defined by his schedule.
Yeah. And I think of, of all the people that degaff on being involved in this championship, I think it's Eli. But it's just simply a discussion of, could he theoretically maybe just have a good ride and finish second while Webb wins the race? And obviously that takes points away from Chase.
Yeah, of course. And I actually I wouldn't be surprised if Tomac would clarify before he came back, like, I am free to win, aren't I? Because otherwise I just won't do this. I just won't come back. I'll wait for outdoors.
What do you think the answer would be?
Yeah, I think that the whole team orders thing is overplayed. Apart from New York 2017, I can't think of a real drastic example of that. And I think KTM went on record in New York 2017 as saying that Marvin just kind of did that on his own accord. So,
well, but New York 17 also created Vegas 2017, which was also maybe, again, the most drastic display of team orders across multiple different manufacturers that I've ever seen.
how so?
Who is it that took out Chad Reed? Anderson took out Chad Reed for like third place, like a brutal takeout because it was Husqvarna versus Monster Athlete. Like
Kellen,
and then
that's
Blake
conjecture.
Baggett was in there. No, Blake Baggett was in there getting mixed up until he
find
crashed.
find me something online that says that Anderson took Reed out because he was a monster athlete.
I think it was pretty obvious what was going on in that race.
What? But you can't say that. I don't think.
No, I can.
Hold on, I'm going to text Steve.
Oh, of course, you're just going to go right to someone else for a differing opinion instead of.
No, I'm going to put it to him. Steve, okay. Hold on. You talk. I'm going to text.
Well, okay. So anyway, point being, I think that there is a slight chance that somehow, some way, these guys get slightly involved in the championship because they already kind of have. Like this weekend, Cooper Webb had a bad first race, and that's all on him. But it allowed two other Austrian athletes to get in the mix and take points away from him. So obviously, they got to just be on their game because somehow AP and Anderson or AP and Malcolm are starting to find their stride as well. So Webb has to be on it. And then the same thing where if Jacob gets a start, Chase has to be on it and not allow, Jacob to get in the mix either. So, yep, interesting championship fight.
Next topic. We've circled this for far too long.
Well, we just ended time anyway. Okay, let's get into my second topic before we do. Big thanks to Leatt. Leatt Protection is in our brand DNA. It started 20 years ago with the groundbreaking Leatt neck brace and continues today with an extensive product offering of protection gear and riding apparel. But what Leatt really stands for is inspiring confidence and ensuring safety with every ride. And we'll tell you guys more about them later on the show as well. All right, my second topic of the day, we're going to do a GP topic, dear Big Lou. So maybe stop frantically texting Steve and let's talk about the GPs, shall we? Anyway, we're 3 rounds into a long championship. So this is all taken with just a bit of a grain of salt. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on this because you're obviously closer to all of this than me. Could this potentially, just potentially, not it will be, but could this potentially be one of the better MX2 title fights in recent memory? We've had 6 different Moto winners, 3 different Grand Prix winners. Thibaut Benistant hasn't won a Moto or a Grand Prix, but he's won 2 qualifying races. And the points lead is still very tight after 3 rounds. So what say you about that question?
My answer is I don't know, which is great. Because if I don't know, that means it will be great. If I had an inkling of like, well, this guy's going to be better or this guy can't hang there, then perhaps not. But effectively being in a state of I don't know in any championship fight is just incredible. So one of the better ones in recent memory, sure. I mean, last year was pretty good, fairly foregone conclusion by the final 6 rounds. Yargo and Tom being tied in 22 was great. But really, prior to that, we had many, many years of runaways thanks to Prado and Hurlings and Just Prado and Hurlings, really, now that I think about it. And even Vial, his first season was fairly clear cut. Renault's was fairly done, although Vial ran it close or at least kept it alive. So, yeah, I think this will be really good. I think right now the dynamic as well between Husqvarna and KTM is fascinating because it really does seem to be two Husqvarnas versus two KTM riders. So that's great. And yeah, I think it should be really good. If you want me to put money down or put a hard opinion down, I do think that Kai de Wolf has the X factor to be consistent and fast and win often. I think Kai is the closest to the full package. So potentially he takes control at some point.
Yes, I agree. But my question with that about Kai specifically is that other than the first moto of the year, I don't know that I've really seen like that it factor yet. And granted, look, we've had a hellacious mutter at Kozar for round two, and then this weekend in Saint Jean d'Angely was mixed conditions at best. Like I wouldn't say it got muddy, but that track is already so slick as it is that with the rain factored in, it was kind of a borderline mud race at times. So you can't really take anything from those races necessarily. But I'm just surprised that Kai has been, I don't know, he seems to have kind of like settled into like a, you know, second to fifth place guy and hasn't really gone for the wins yet like he was. But maybe that's strategic, right?
Well, not to talk out of turn, but he was injured per se in the start of Feb. He missed whatever preseason races, Hawkstone he was going to do. He missed those. That was a little more serious than they let on. I think that he was actually extremely doubtful for the first round in Argentina. So,
okay. Well, but to play into what you just said on the Pulp Show 2 days ago, okay, sorry you got hurt or whatever, man, and then you win the first race of the year. So I don't know how you can, like at that point, it's like, well, then we're at a wash.
yeah, but I do think he gets better. Is my point.
Okay.
But even if you're winning, there's still an opportunity for there to be more to come, and ultimately, in the past, consistency has been his greatest downfall. So the fact that he's just there or thereabouts at the moment is great, I think. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with your point because in Kozar, he was second to Liam Everts in the second moto, who's an incredible mud rider. So, and it was a mud race, so like you can't really judge the results or the performance there. And then St. Jean is kind of on record as being his worst track. I remember 22 there, he was awful, terrible. And when he started working with Ruben, that was kind of the main priority was to make him consistent across all surfaces so there wasn't this clear downfall. Add in the mechanical failure on Saturday, bad gate pick that comes from that. I think that ending with, what did he go, 5-4? Ending with moto scores like that is actually great for him as St. John. I don't think you can even criticize that in the slightest.
Yeah.
And also because he had the speed seemingly to go with the leaders. If it was kind of seemed to be down to track position. I think that if he started in the top three, he would have featured in the battle for the win. That top five group seemed to be really interchangeable.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to be critical of him. I was trying to actually sing his praises about maybe a measured approach through these two GPs that were not ideal for him, more or less. And in essence, don't you feel like Riola should be a 1-1 for him? No?
Yeah, but Liam, I mean, I don't know. I still don't know about Liam's like strength and fitness over two motos in the deep sand because of his lack of bike time. So, yeah, without Coonan, I mean, there's always room for a surprise. But yeah, Kai will enter Sardinia as a clear favourite, that's for sure.
So we've had 6 different moto winners, like I said. Of those 6, obviously Ferruccio Zanchi stands out probably as the most outlandish. But
yeah,
is there anything else that's jumped off the page at you as like, oh, I mean, obviously Everett's coming back from the injury. You already talked about that, but like, Adamo looks to be more himself again this year. He has a GP win, or Benestant, who wasn't very good at the opener, now has 2 quali wins and almost won this GP or won a race. So yeah, like what stands out?
Well, yeah, Everts is number one just purely because I didn't. If you'd asked me to put money on it, I wouldn't have said he'd be racing at this point. So for him to have the red plate is wild. Adamo is definitely slightly better. It doesn't jump off the page. It's not that much of an improvement, but he's definitely better and seems to be more of a factor. Yeah, those would be the two. Benistant's always inconsistent, up and down. Like he can win one week and be 10th the next. That won't surprise me. I'm kind of immune to Benistant's effect at the moment, or nowadays. But Yeah, it's been good. Like, I don't know where it's going to go. I think the Kai will leave Sardinia with a red plate, and then I'll be interested to see if he loses it again or if he does then just take it the whole way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's why I say it's early, so I take this with a grain of salt. But there's every chance that, like you said, he wins Riola and then is gone. Maybe like could he just walk away from there?
Yeah, but the good thing is about this is Adamo, Lagenfelder, and Everts are all quite consistent riders. So I don't think you have an instance where Kai is putting points on them because rider X, Y, and Z are taking points from his competitors. I think this quartet will be swapping and changing positions all year long, which should keep it relatively close.
Well, and another factor with any MXGP championship is that injuries always seem to take their toll on a good title fight to any degree. So, unfortunately, the reality is that, especially with how much these guys have already fought each other pretty valiantly in the first 3 rounds, there's a good chance someone's going to get hurt soon, right?
Sure, if you want to say that, sure.
I mean, it's just the reality. That's how
it's
these
the reality of any motocross series worldwide.
Yeah, but
guess,
the
so.
GPs, it seems like even worse.
No, it's the same everywhere.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
We lost Tomac and Jet by round 5 this year.
Yeah, and Supercross. I'm talking about outdoors though.
Oh,
like
by outdoors, a lot of people have either been injured or are coming back from injury, so it's not a fair assessment. It just comes down to time. The MXGP series covers such a long span of time, there's more opportunities for riders to get hurt. Whereas if you're counting Supercross or outdoors separately, then it's a smaller sample size. If you want to do a fair comparison, you kind of need to count A1 to the SMX final.
Okay. Fair enough. So you would put money on DeWolf.
Yeah, but not like somewhat reluctantly because I do
Who's
think
the
it
other,
is going to be
who's the
tight.
second person you're putting money on then?
Probably Lagenfelder.
Oh, 8 GP wins.
It's still possible. It's still possible.
It's still possible. All right, that's my second topic done. Very fun to see this MX2 title fight continue on. Big thanks to Namura, the leading provider of engine components for motocross, ATV, UTV, and personal watercraft for over 2 decades. Namura has been the preferred choice for premium and dependable engine components for more than 20 years. Whether you're restoring your vintage bike, rebuilding your four-wheeler, or upgrading your new 450 race motor, Namura has you covered. Our extensive line of cast and forged pistons, connecting rods, gasket kits, engine valves, and soon cylinder kits that enhance your engine's performance. Keep an eye out for our new and innovative products in 2025 and beyond. Stay up to date by following us on Instagram at Namura_technologies. All right. We may not spend all 7 minutes on this third topic. We already kind of discussed it pre-show, but we have to bring it up because there's a lot of drama last week, and I don't really like getting into the drama, especially when it has nothing to do with the racetrack, but let's just quickly rehash what happened. So obviously, it kicked off last Monday. The Lawrence lawsuit was thrown out of federal court, basically just because of they were non-U.S. citizens filing a federal injunction, and then they just refiled in the state of Florida. So now that's back on. It's still pretty much the exact same lawsuit as far as I was able to read through. So I don't think it's really much any different. And the papers were already served and yada, 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 yada. So there's that side of it. And then, of course, on Friday, Hayden Deegan gets arrested for stunt driving. Sounds like he was simply just doing donuts like in a parking lot or something like that, and cop flashed the sirens. He did another donut. So then when you're already doing something you shouldn't do and then they try to get you to stop and you do it again, it's not the most ideal situation. But as reports say, it was potentially going to be worse. He had a fake ID that showed he was over 21, which he obviously isn't, and they didn't charge him for that, so that's good because he would have gotten a felony for that. So anyway, spent 6 hours in jail, got bailed out at 1:30 in the morning, and I think we're just back to normal this week. But there was a lot to unpack here, so anything you would like to discuss with it, Lewis?
It's a lot. I don't know what's going on with the sport this year. We are out of control off the track. I guess point one would be there isn't much to say about the Lawrence situation because it kind of is just continuing as it was with a slight official change of term, I guess you'd call it. So I guess there isn't really a development there to report on, or there isn't really a a massive game-changing element to that. The Deegan situation, it is interesting. I mean, we don't have this happen in our sport much, so of course it's like an eyebrow raising to see one of the top riders get arrested, even if it was for something dumb. This is only the second time it's happened, obviously. Well, I count it as the second time because I count it in the same vein as JS7. I guess you could argue the J-Law stuff and all of that, but I'm not.
A lot of
that's a
people have
different
been
category.
arrested while racing Supercross. It's not the, yeah,
No, but I'm saying like top athletes. You
yeah,
know?
yeah,
The
yeah.
top athletes. I would imagine that in his situation, the R8 was a little bit of a red flag to the cop. Not bad anything about Deegan, but I'd imagine the cop was almost like unsettled that someone Hayden's age was driving this car that's worth however many dollars, and that probably didn't help Hayden's case. Not because of anything Hayden did wrong, just because of perception when you see someone Hayden's age driving an Audi R8. So yeah, I guess it is business as usual now. I did get told Yamaha were going to release a statement about Hayden. They never did. I'm very curious. Well, we won't have press day in Seattle, so I guess that's out.
He'll probably be there though. Don't you think people will want to talk to him?
You know what? If people do talk to him and bring it up, I hope he talks about it because he is leaning into it now with merge. So if you're
Right.
doing that, you can talk about it. Like it's not like he's trying to keep it hush hush. If he's
Yeah.
really pushing it this far, then yeah, talk about it. But yeah, much ado about nothing, really.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like I kind of have like a zero tolerance stance thing on like the speeding and an excessive, like Travis Pastrana did when he crashes, I think Lambo or something, and obviously hurt his passenger really bad. Like that thing, and I was a huge Travis fan, but that pissed me off. Doing donuts in a parking lot is so nothing. Like it's nothing. A lot of people do it. That age, it's even more common that people do it. So it's weird that he got arrested for it, but I can see why after hearing more about like the manner in which it happened and the fake IDs and stuff. Like that's definitely a lot of red flags in succession. And if you're a cop, you don't know who Hayden Deegan is, so you're probably just like, let's get this guy off the streets. But yeah, it was peculiar to say the best. And I think to the point about people talking to him about it, really all I kind of wanted to know, not really from his, viewpoint of it or anything, I guess necessarily, is just like how his sponsors kind of take it, because in one facet, a lot of people are stoked on this and thinks it's funny and he's great and all that. And then on the other facet, if you're a high level sponsor, you don't want your star athlete in an orange jumpsuit. So I don't, do people like, should sponsors care?
Well, I mean, the only real sponsor I can think of that would really care is Yamaha. Because Monster, this kind of fits the Monster brand. And aside from that, like, with all due respect, unless I'm missing a massive personal sponsor that Hayden has, a chain lube sponsor isn't, their opinion doesn't really matter, you know?
But I do think that for Thor and Alpine Stars specifically, this is a little bit of just a sour taste. Not anything negative, but it's not their most marquee athlete necessarily because they obviously have like the Lawrence brothers if you're Alpine Stars, and you have a number of good people in Thor gear still. So it's not like your top guy, but there's so many eyeballs on Deegan constantly wearing those brands specifically. And I know Alpine Stars they try to be a very clean and polished brand as well. So that probably doesn't sit awesome with them, but I don't know that it matters at all. You know what I mean?
No, I think there's more to lose by being mad at Hayden than there is to gain from being mad at Hayden if you're those companies. So yeah, and also although Alpine Stars have the signature helmet, I don't look at him as an Alpine Stars guy per se. Maybe I should do because of the helmet, but
well, I think more from a standpoint of I don't think this impacts us at all. But Hayden is a year away or so, pretty much right now, a year away from signing a massive gear deal with somebody. Because when he goes to a 450, he is going to be the hottest ticket in a long time to be head to toe in something. Alpine Stars or Fox or whatever you want to name it. And so I don't know. Like, I don't think it matters at all, but maybe Alpine Stars is slightly more reserved because of that. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But I'm just saying, like, I would be curious to know from a sponsor standpoint how they
I
approach
mean,
that.
if you're looking for squeaky clean, Deegan isn't your guy. At the end of the day, you're going
No.
to sign a guy whose nickname is Danger Boy. So you're not going to be able to present him or market him in a way that is like Chase is marketed or Eli is marketed or Jet or anyone actually for
Right.
that matter. So yeah, you've got to know what you're getting into. And if that isn't your scene, then yeah, that's not it. I mean, not talking out of turn, but Fly did a deal with Dirt Bike Kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
DBK.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they wanted to kind of move away from the squeaky clean look.
Right.
So, maybe it's actually positive to these brands because it's something it appeals to a completely different audience.
That's totally fair. That's a excellent point. Last thing I'll ask quickly about the Deegan thing though is I didn't watch the TV broadcast and maybe they did talk about it, but um, do you think that that's something that gets brought up a lot in Seattle on the
No,
broadcast?
I think everyone's forgotten about it.
Oh,
I'm
really?
really surprised how much the social media posts about it, the memes about it, have just seemed to have died.
They did die very quickly. Like it went from this is like I had so many people saying this is the funniest thing ever to like no one's talking about it 3 days later.
I think it died just because he released his own merch about it, which kind of made it unfunny.
Well, I think it died because it was much ado about nothing. If it was like the stew thing, I feel like was way more holy shit than this, you know?
Yeah, and that
So
was there was more fanfare around that, wasn't it? Because wasn't it on the news, him walking out of jail and everything. So,
yeah, well, it definitely made much higher profile local news. I don't even think that this even smelled Florida man local news stuff. So, yep.
I did see an Instagram reel. I think it was mentioned somewhere on news, but maybe it was just AI. Who knows?
Yeah. There's a lot of that lately. It's insane. But yeah, like I said, kind of much ado about nothing. So let's move into the second half of the show, shall we, Big Lou? Big thanks to Racetech, though. For 40 years, Racetech has been supplying the motorcycle industry with high-quality suspension components made right here in the USA. From modern to vintage, Racetech is your go-to source for suspension performance. All right, Lewis, what do you got for me today?
Did you do 4 topics or do I have 3 topics? Or
I did 3.
okay, I thought Birmingham.
Well, I mean, I could maybe add that as a topic, but it was not designed to be a topic.
Oh, sorry, I just was unclear on where we were in the show. Let's start with a topic that will make you very happy. Although now that I say it, I wonder if we've done this previously because it's starting to ring a bell. What should we expect from Maximus Vohland? What's good?
Love it.
What's bad? What's okay? I don't think I really know now because do we judge him against Marchbanks on a club bike last year? If so, this isn't good because Marchbanks had podiums. This isn't as good, I should say. Do we judge him based on his own Supercross results? In which case, this is great because although actually you'd be better suited to talk to me about this than I would be to talk to you about this. Has he had how many top 5s did he have before this year in Supercross? None?
No, like 3. I could look real quick.
Okay, maybe I'm underestimating.
He got 4th at the opener on PC last year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That I remembered the PC one, but I'm thinking KTM specifically now.
It wasn't many because he kind of got hurt. Remember, he got hurt a lot on a KTM, and then he would come back early. He missed a couple main events straight up.
Yeah, like I remember only bad. I don't really remember a top 5 on a KTM.
Let's see, 250 SX. He got a 5th at Anaheim 1, Anaheim 2, and Seattle, and a 4th at East Rutherford in 2023. Sorry.
Oh wow, that's a much better than I would have thought.
And then he did not. He
got 4th in a showdown. It was muddy, wasn't it? It was muddy.
250 SX showdown at East Rutherford. He got 4th. Yeah, on a KTM. And then, yeah, obviously the 4th at Anaheim, which no, sorry, 5th. Why did I think he got 4th? Who got 4th that night? Yeah, that's it. He got a 5th in an SMX playoff race in 23.
Yeah, we're not going that far. So
Okay.
Supercross specifically, so 4 top 5s before this year.
Yes.
Okay, so then that changes my
5.
perception even more because is this good? Is this bad? How should I feel about this? You tell me as the Vohland man.
I think that I would not. Don't look at him compared to Marchbanks because to me, Marchbanks went from injury riddled, inconsistent type of guy to somehow consistently fast on a club bike. And I think that we are back to square one of Garrett Marchbanks with Max Vohland right now, which is he's gone through the ringer with a lot of injuries and he's still not 100% right now. And he may never be again. And you just have to look at where he was prior to this injury, knock it down a couple pegs because he's still actually hurt, and then go off of that. So I would say prior to injury, he was borderline podium guy on a PC bike. I would say top 5 is where he like the goals should be right now. And I still think that on some level he can get back to where he was before for sure. But this year, I think if he got a podium, I would be like blown away personally.
So where did he end up overall in
6th.
Okay, so that's just okay. We're not celebrating that like a crazy amount. That's just okay. That's adequate.
That is adequate, but I mean, you know, he crashed in the first lap of the 3rd race, and if he doesn't and picks up another 6, that's an easy top 5. So I don't like. I think he was pretty good at Birmingham overall. I just think that the result doesn't necessarily reflect it.
How do you make him more noticeable, more recognizable, make his footprint bigger, more impactful? How do you do all of that?
He needs to start up front more often. His starts have not been that great. Really almost his whole career, I guess, but definitely of late since coming back, they've just been not good. And he kind of lucked out, I feel like, in the first race because he was like 10th, and then Hammaker crashed the whole field, and he was the one of the 2 or 3 guys that snuck by on the top to get into 4th. But yeah, he needs to start up front more often because that's the only way you see him. Otherwise, he just hangs out in that, oh, he's right there at the top 5, but we don't see him on TV hardly ever.
Yeah, I feel like he slips through the cracks a little bit, or he has done this year at least. And I don't know how you I don't know how you fix that. He's not the most outgoing guy, not the biggest personality, so I guess that doesn't help either. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just wondering if that holds his career back moving forward.
Yeah, so like you asked me because I'm a little bit closer to him from
Well,
an
a lot
outside
closer.
from an outside perspective for you. What do you want to see out of Max Vohland? Like, what's a good result? What do you want to see this year?
Well, the reason that I asked this question is because I don't know. It randomly dawned on me. I think it's because this dawned on me because I looked at his Birmingham result and was like, oh, that's great. And then I was like, is it? I don't actually know what to consider great or what to celebrate or how to feel about any of this. I think that, I mean, I admittedly must have underestimated his past because I wouldn't have said he had that many top 5s. So I guess I look for a 4th. A 4th to me would be like, wow, would you look at that? Mm-hmm. So, because that was kind of how I was feeling after the first main event in Birmingham. So, yes, that would be my test. Anything below a 4th is kind of just, okay, that's good, that's fine, that's nondescript, which is almost the worst place to be as a rider when you're nondescript placings because no one really acknowledges you and it makes it harder to make your stamp if you're looking to get back on a factory team.
One thing I'll ask about him in relation to where he fits into the class currently is if you want him to get 4th, he has to beat a pretty decent crop of factory riders to do so. Whereas 250 West, he would, yes, kind of have to do that, but it's lesser so. Like, do you feel like a 4th on the West would not be as big of a deal for him versus a 4th on the East because he'd have to beat Thrasher and Bennick and Hymas and all those guys to do it?
You mean you're talking this right now? This
right
year?
now, yep.
Okay. No, I think a 4th on the West would be equally as impressive.
Okay.
Because you still have the big 5, Shimoda, Davies, Smith, who's back this weekend, by the way, Juju, Tegan. So to get in amongst that group would be equally impressive, I think. The names you listed, Bennick, I mean, I think that Vohland should be beating Bennick or can beat Bennick. Thrasher, I mean, okay, 1 week, yeah, Thrasher may lap Vohland, but the next week, who knows? And Hymas, well, Hymas has never had a He's had one top five in Supercross. So, if anything, Hymus's career is actually worse than Vohland's.
I just mean from a factory standpoint, because
Oh, okay.
obviously,
Well,
like,
I spent less time placing emphasis on that and more just looking at the riders around him.
well, but the only reason I bring that up is because, knowing his situation and what he's gone through, like there wasn't a lot of offers on the table, and club is a great fit for him. But yeah, he's pretty. I feel like he's pretty consistently found a way now in the last handful of weeks since he figured out the bike issues to be right there with those guys. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
like, if you're a factory program, maybe it's not the worst idea to give him a look again at some point because of look at where he's at already, 5 races coming back off of this injury.
I almost feel like, and I don't think this is correct, but I feel like Mumford is more attractive to a factory team right now than Vohland is.
Right now, 100%, but Mumford isn't coming off, a huge injury at the moment, and he's been,
Well, he actually is.
well, okay, yeah, but you get what I mean. Like, to me, this is like a career restart for Vohland, and I feel like Mumford's already had one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I
I'll
judge it
accept that.
differently.
Okay. Moving on.
Okay.
I also feel like I've got deja vu with this topic, so tell me if we've done it before.
Well,
Have we
can we
discussed?
I was gonna say, can we do an ad read quickly
Yeah, sure.
before we?
You go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. Yep. Want to tell you guys about Partzilla.com. It's the premier OEM parts dealer and distributor. They sell OEM parts for Honda, Kawasaki, Polaris, Can-Am, Suzuki, Arctic Cat, Sea-Doo, Ski-Doo, and Yamaha motorcycles, ATVs, PWCs, and snowmobiles. Visit Partzilla.com to see their extensive line of parts and accessories. Also, shout out to Butterlegs, who was our winner of the fan questionnaire Palooza last week. Is it fair to call it a Palooza, Lewis? It was quite a bit of fan questions.
Well, it
And
was a great time. Some say our best LVK portion ever.
some say. And we picked 4 names out of a hat. Butterlegs was the draw, so he is going to win a hoodie. We'll reach out to him and let him know. But thanks so much for playing. Also, PRMX Blaster Power Partzilla race team. Yeah, not a great weekend overall. Mitchell Harrison got 19th, and Jack Chambers did not qualify. So tough break.
How do we get the Jack Chambers train back on track?
I think you need to go talk to him again.
I mean, is it as simple as actually it's not that bad? He missed the showdown, which is whatever. It's a showdown, and then okay, this week didn't go to plan, but that's just 1 week. You know?
Well, where I think it's not good is I think he's fast enough to make it straight in to the
Oh,
East.
without doubt.
And the fact that he was 19th and had to go to the LCQ, which is a whole different kettle of fish with the ANSI getting pulled out, and they were going to let Chambers in, but then he raced the LCQ. Anyway, yeah, just not good. He should have easily made it out of that LCQ, but he like the weirdest sequence of what he got sideways in a rhythm section and like jumped off the track, and someone almost landed on him, and then he got back on and then got taken out. Like it was weird. So
I almost feel like Chambers' whole career has been held back by the fact that he's too desperate to fulfill his potential. Does that make sense?
could be.
Like he's almost wanting it too much, to put it much simpler, because he knows how good he can be, as we do as well, and as PRMX knows. I think the potential's there. He should know. He certainly should not be in the conversation of missing main events, and I would argue even a showdown, he's good enough to make it in.
I agree.
So I almost wonder if there's, a bit of maybe needs to chill out a little bit. I don't know.
Well, how about Foxborough? You and I go give him a pep talk together.
Are you doing Foxborough for swap?
Yes.
Okay. Next topic.
Yes, sir.
We may have already discussed this, so just tell me if we have. I think we might have. Prado Outdoors?
We teased it a couple times. I don't think we went deep on it yet.
Okay, well, I got a tweet yesterday from someone saying let's see here. It was something like, what chances do you give Prado Outdoors, or what percentage do you give him at winning the title? Yeah, what percent are his chances of winning the title in his first year? And I said low, 10%. And I actually wanted to go lower than 10%, but 10 just seemed like a nice low round number. And I think a lot of people were quite surprised. So what would your answer to that question be?
I kind of fully agreed with you. Like right in that ballpark. If he like right now was back on the bike grinding, doing motos, testing, getting dialed in, was going back and forth between California and Florida and trying different tracks and stuff, bump it up to 20. But the fact that he's still recovering, hasn't been back on the bike yet, we don't know how he's going to adapt to not only these tracks, but then obviously the production rule means that they can't play with frame settings and other things that he was way more accustomed to feeling comfortable with in GPs. And he's on a completely different motorcycle manufacturer than he's pretty much ever raced in his career, other than 2 Supercrosses at this point. Yeah, I mean, 10% is maybe even lofty.
Yeah, no, I think so. I would have liked to go 5 if I could revise it. And also, I just think, okay, if Jet's healthy, I think Jet and Chase are just going to be clear of Prado. And I think Tomac too, although I put him maybe slightly below those two. I think Prado will be a 3 to 5 guy with maybe a moto win and a couple of podiums.
Yeah, I think he wins like 3 to 4 motos and like 1 or 2 overalls.
Okay,
but,
yeah, I'm not there.
But but here's why I say that, because I think that there's going to be like 3 tracks that we go to that he's just so comfortable and the old Prado is back and he feels great, and everything else is going to be like a where am I kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I think he's going to go to Thunder Valley or something like that and be like, man, this bike feels underpowered and this track feels weird. I don't know. The soil feels different. I've never raced anything like this. Whereas
just for argument's sake and just for context, MXGP do have multiple rounds at elevation.
Okay. Anyway, and then we'll go to Unadilla, Southwick, and he'll be like, this is the best track I've ever ridden in my life. This is easy, fun, fast. I can connect lines. I know exactly what to do. And I think he could win motos there. So
the Southwick Euro thing is overplayed.
It is overplayed, but I think that he'll feel way more in his own zone at something like that than he would at, definitely at, I mean, I guess because he's from Spain, he may not be that bad at Fox Raceway, but every guy that's foreigner that's come over to Fox Raceway is like, what is this place?
I bet at Fox Raceway, Prado goes 4-7.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I'm super curious to see is if his starts are anywhere near as close to as good as they were in GPs. So
you ask him, he gets very defensive.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
I've even tried to make jokes with him about them, and he's not really having it.
As in, like, you say, are they going to be as good? And he's like, of course they're going to be great.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, like in San Diego, I interviewed him, and I was like, oh, look, you got start. I guess you can do it on a Cowie too. And he was kind of like, what the fuck do you mean? Yeah, no, I think that it's going to be a learning year, and it's important to not judge too harshly just because this year may be a 5th in the championship. That doesn't mean 2026 will be. I do think a lot of the Prado hype comes from a lot of people underestimating what Chase did outdoors last year, because I feel like Chase was phenomenal in that second half of the season. So it should be plug and play with bike setup. So if he can replicate that, I think Chase will be very, very good. I personally still don't believe that Jet will be on the track at Fox Raceway, but that's up in the air. But I personally don't believe it will happen. So that's one guy out, potentially. And I think Tomac, I really don't know about Tomac as well. I think Tomac will be better than Prado, but I don't know. For some reason, I think I'm just maybe clouded by the final 2 outdoors last year where he wasn't quite there.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I think you're just critically underrating him personally.
I mean, his last outdoor win was 2022.
I understand that, dude, but it's Eli freaking Tomac. And okay, yeah, sure.
Just to be clear, he wins multiple rounds. I'm not saying that.
Yes. But okay, so those last 2 rounds of outdoors were just weren't awesome. I get that. However, immediately graded an SMX after that, and I thought did exceptionally well at Matterley. Did he win? No, but I don't know that I would ever expect Eli to go to a track like that and win. That's not like Eli Tomac's mantra is a track like that. So I think he did every bit as good of any American that could have went to Matterley. And that puts me right back into, well, he's Eli Tomac and he's pretty damn good outdoors.
Okay, but Okay, I think you're taking what I'm saying a little bit too negatively and too far. I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying that with Chase, we saw how good he was 6 months ago, and he's on the same bike, same situation. It really should be quite. It's quite clear to me that we will see that same Chase Sexton, or we should do at least. With Tomac, I'm just a little more wait and see because the evidence is not as hard. So I'm a little more open to, okay, I just want to see it. Or not even that I want to see it, but I just need to see it. So that's why I don't put Chase and Eli in the same category. And also that's why I put Jet in the Chase category, whereas technically he should go in the Eli category of both coming back from injuries. But I put Jet in the Chase category because we also saw Jet last year and the year before. There's a mountain of evidence that suggests even if he's injured or less than 100%, we know what he can do. Whereas Eli, there is a lack of evidence from the last 3 years. So it's not that I don't think he can win, and it's not that I don't think he'll be the champion. It's just that I just want to kind of see it reinforced at the first couple of rounds.
The last thing I'll ask you just specifically about Chase then in this, and we're not even talking about Prado anymore, but
oh, well, now everyone's going to get fucking pissed off, aren't they? Because they're going to say that this has been brought back to Chase.
No. I think you're fair in putting Chase as the guy. He's the number one guy.
I'm putting him as the guy alongside Jet, but Jet's obviously questionable.
What I'll ask about Chase specifically is last year, the championship really for him was over pretty, I don't want to say early because like past Nashville was kind of late in the championship, but really he could just be like, okay, Supercross isn't, I'm not going to win this title. Let's really focus outdoors. And I think that showed. Like, I think he came in pretty ready to go outdoors. Do you not think that if he and Webb take this thing all the way to the very end, he's going to have a slight hangover?
I think that your point is moot because I think results aside last year, I don't think there was ever a point where he said, oh, let's just leave this Supercross bike alone and focus on outdoors. I think that he was throwing stuff at that bike all season long. And if anything, it sounds like he's stabilized somewhat now, so I don't think that he's searching. I think he's searching less at the moment in Supercross with the bike than he was last year, championship or not.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. For our last topic, let me tell you guys about Leatt again real quick. At Leatt, protection is in our brand DNA. It started 20 years ago with the groundbreaking Leatt neck brace and continues today with an extensive product offering of protective gear and riding apparel. But what Leatt really stands for is inspiring confidence and ensuring safety with every ride. All right, Lewis, final topic of the day.
Little non-moto.
Oh.
It doesn't have to be long. It just confused me a little bit, and I'm curious on your stance on this. So driving to Birmingham on Saturday morning, it was a maze of affairs as we struggled to get on a road that wasn't closed, as they were closing roads here, there, and everywhere to accommodate a run, a race, if you will. Only a 5K, I came to find out, which is, I don't feel like 5K is necessarily mountainous. Could I run 5K right now? No. But it's certainly not a marathon or a half marathon. Fair?
You could run 5K right now.
I could if maybe you told me you'd pay me to. I think otherwise I'd give up. But so struggling to get to the stadium, and we see the leaders go by. Great effort from them. Although it's only a 5K, so. And then we're stuck at these lights because there's a slew of people just walking a 5K with jackets over their shoulders, strollers, whatever else. Like, there was no intention to take part in this 5K race. They signed up and just went there with, like, we are just going to stroll this 5K. And I just can't understand it, so I want you to explain it to me.
Well, so 5Ks are very much like the base level in terms of running race, I would say. Of course. And generally speaking, most of the time 5Ks are more synonymous with like just like a fun event, less so than like a real race. Like
but we're closing roads.
The last time I really raced a 5K was high school. Everything after that has been half marathons or anything like that. So I think most of the time, like a 5K like that, like the one that I always go to is on Thanksgiving. There's a 5K called a turkey trot that most communities will do. And sometimes, yeah, I don't know that they'll fully close roads, but they'll close off sections or, a park has like a cordon off area that you do it at. And yeah, most of the time that's like just people that want to get out and do a little bit of exercise and feel part of a community and do something with their friends. And maybe it's a walk, maybe it's a jog, maybe it's a full blown run like in a race. But it's not ever to me as serious as a 10K, a half marathon, anything like that. So I think that a 5K walking isn't that big of a deal.
Okay, I misunderstood, and now I understand, and we can move on.
Okay.
I
I could just imagine you sitting at this. So like you had to wait for people to cross for you to
Yep.
go across this road,
Yep.
and you're just sitting there losing it.
No, I didn't care. I just was curious. I mean, I still don't quite understand. Like, just why sign up to this race? Just walk five. Like, just pick your own route and walk 5K in your own time. Like, I still don't understand the concept of like, because I presume you have to pay. I don't understand the concept of paying to walk 5K when you can just walk 5K anywhere if that's your intent. I feel like if you're going to pay to sign up and turn up and do it, then you're kind of doing it for some competitive reason. But obviously not. I misunderstood, and we can now end this topic because this is the brand new woke non-moto on LVK.
Woke non-moto, which means what? You just don't want to deep
It
dive
just means
on
that we
topics
don't
that you
debate.
agree with.
We just I asked a question, I got an answer. We can move on.
You don't debate. I'll ask you a non-moto question. Well, it is moto, but it's also kind of non-moto. After our discussion last week on the show about me racing, there was a lot of fanfare around Lewis getting back on a motorcycle. So this got to happen. I'm sorry, like you can't you can't run and hide anymore. Like people want it. People want to see you ride.
I
People want
want
to see you
to.
at ride days, huh?
I want to.
Okay.
I just can't be bothered to do the whole cleaning, setup,
If
acquire. Like, I have to acquire everything.
if Sexton said to you, "Hey man, I got a backup practice bike. Why don't you come ride?" You
Yeah, we
in?
talked about that.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, no, not me and you, me and Chase.
Oh,
No, because there was we discussed it with Chase. Me and Steve were going to go to the Baker's factory and race on KTM's. So then Steve was out because of KTM.
yeah, of course.
Um, um, but no, yeah, I'd do that 100%. I'd love
Yeah?
to do that. I'd love to do that. I want to ride. I love riding.
Do the turn track at Baker's?
Yeah, that sounds well fun.
Yeah, well then let's get on board. Let's talk to Chase.
I'd love to do that. That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Like, and I can just turn up, no pressure. I can do 10. I mean, oh yeah, but then
I
I'd
was
be.
gonna say no. We got to do LVK on site at that point. There's gonna be video cameras involved, and
But then again, then there'd be pressure because there's eyeballs, and I'd quite like to do because at first you don't like when you haven't ridden in 10 years and you get on it, all feels a bit funky, doesn't it? Like the shift, like the foot position of where the shifter is feels funny, and like you have to kind of just you have to do a couple of turns just to figure out like exactly clutch position, etc. And then also I haven't ridden in so long that the bike would feel very weird just purely from a point of view of development of bike, right?
yeah,
Like it must feel, I'd imagine now it feels so much sleeker
yeah.
and so much, so that would probably take a bit of time. I've always
I-
preferred KTM though. I've always preferred KTM.
This is how startling it is to me how far in life we are. I know you haven't ridden for a long time. I almost wanted to ask you if you've ever ridden a fuel injected bike, and then I had to check myself and be like, oh no, we've had fuel injected bikes for 16, 17 years now, so there's no way he hasn't.
Yeah, 2012 Honda was my last bike. So,
Yeah, so there you go.
yep. And let's not forget my last race ever. I whole shot and led laps.
There's no proof of this.
There's literally a photo of me getting the whole shot. I've sent this
Is
to you
there?
before.
I haven't seen it.
I've sent this to you before
I don't think so.
because you made fun of how many fingers I had on the clutch. Or Steve
I
did.
genuinely don't remember.
And I
this
said
thing.
it was because I was it's because the first time I'd ridden in a year and I had no plans to get the whole shot. So I was just
How many
absolutely
did you have?
freaking
3?
I don't know, but I was going into the second corner just absolutely fucking scared for my life because I had no intention to whole shot this race.
Okay, so here's the conclusion then. You still haven't taken Chase up once on an offer to come just hang out with him at Baker's factory. So instead,
He's
we're
a hard
upping the
guy to get
stakes.
hold of.
We're upping the stakes, and now it's just straight up. We're going to Keir Sexton. We're going to go to Alden, and we're going to say, "Hey, can we make this happen for our guy Big Lou?" And
No,
you're
I
going to be
wanna.
riding at the Baker's factory in the balls heat of August at some point at Baker's factory.
No, I need a private time first.
It'll be a private time. It'll just be 115 in, August.
Let's see if Chase can take a bike to a private track.
Why wouldn't you ride at Baker's? That is a private track.
Well, I'd like that to be the second time.
Why? Who's there? What? AP and Malcolm's across the
No,
facility
yeah,
looking
that's
at
a
you?
good point. Okay, so I need Chase to drive the bike to a private track, drop off the bike, leave, come pick the bike up, and then I'll ride at Baker's factory for the second time in front of him.
You're insane.
That's the program we're on.
Just get on and ride the bike. Who cares? Okay. That's it. That's enough.
I'd love to do it. Oh, it would be fun.
Yeah. See, I'm getting on board with this. We're gonna talk to Kier next time I see him.
No, go through Chase.
Why?
I don't know.
It doesn't work because even if he texts you back, you still will not follow through. So there's no point.
I'm fine. I'm retired.
No. Okay. So we're gonna get Lewis on the bike, and we're gonna see how wet and mud. Huh?
I'm gonna walk a 5K as well.
You're gonna walk a 5K. We're gonna get Lewis on the bike, and then we're gonna see just how sloppy Seattle is this weekend because it's raining all week. It's supposed to not rain Saturday. Maybe they somehow have already built the track and sealed it. I highly doubt it. It's going to be moon dirt at best and a slosh fest otherwise. So
I feel like the Seattle mudder has been teased so much over the years that I'm kind of like immune to those rumors or those whatever you want to call it. Like I feel as though Seattle always somehow, some way comes relatively good.
nah, bro, look at the weather right now. They're building the track and it's
But
soaking.
is that not a weather Seattle every year?
No, because there's last year, for example, last year they had the track fully built before Friday and then it dumped all day Friday, but they sealed it, and so that's why it stayed mostly okay. Jumpable rhythm sections, it got ruddy as shit as usual, but that's how they kept it that way. So
Well, my point being, we haven't seen a Seattle mudder since 2018. And considering how bad the weather is in Seattle at this time of year, how every single year there's talk of the weather in Seattle, I'll believe it when I see it.
okay, well, if we somehow subvert a disaster, I would be shocked because it's,
Okay, I'm betting that we do. So stay tuned next week to see who was right.
okay. Well, stay tuned, everybody. Hey, big thanks to Leatt, Namura, Race Tech, Partzilla, everyone who backs the show, and thanks, of course, to all of you guys for tuning in and listening every single week. I will not be in Seattle with Big Lou, but Big Lou will tell us all about it when we join you guys next week to rehash what happened with 250 West back in action and move on to Foxborough after that. But yeah, all good. Bye, Big Lou.
See you next week.
See you next week.